Welcome to Wild, Women in Lending Determined to Make an Impact. I'm your host, Robin Lavasser. They say our biggest fear is not that we are inadequate. It's being powerful beyond measure. In this podcast, I will share how to break through imaginary ceilings, lean into success, discovering your purpose, and understanding how to create the business and life of your dreams. From failures to triumphs and all the tactics in between, let's jump into the wild arena together.
Welcome back to Wild with Robin Lavasser, one of my most favorite topics and part of the set that I say that you need to truly make it to the next level, if you will, in whatever career path you're on. And part of it's also just in life in general. And that is, obviously you need knowledge to a certain level of anything that you're doing that you want to be good at, right? You have to have the knowledge skill set in that space. The next set is, in our world, it's sales skill set. Do you have the sales skill set? And that's a big piece to things. And then the last that I say is always the one that I think is probably the single hardest. And we think we're better at it than we actually are. And that is leadership skill set. And man, there is a lot to leadership and in a constant state of learning as a leader in general. And I definitely wouldn't declare myself a leader because I really believe that people know who the leaders are. And so I've been blessed enough for people to say, you're somebody I want to follow. Leaders have followers, and those followers, not as in sheep, if you will, but followers as in, hey, this is somebody that I want to emulate, and that is working for and with me. And I feel that and I see that. And it is something that has to be worked on. And so the very first thing that I would say in general is that personal growth and self-leadership, leaders in general, they never stop learning. They never stop growing. And I think one of the biggest things that has a leader maybe have a short-term run is they get to leadership. And because they're there, they think that they have arrived, if you will. And they tend to, growth in leaders in general is their responsibility, not somebody else's. And I think that in the weird way, they're like, oh, now that I'm here and I'm in the position above everybody else is working and I'm leading by managing or watching or dictating, doing a lot of things. And that's simply not the case. Experience isn't enough, meaning you can't just be the most knowledgeable and the best at the job, if you will. It's really, leaders are also able to teach. They're excited to pour into other people. They have reflection plus action, and then wanting to share that growth, right? Wanting to make room for other people's growth. Being teachable and self-aware is a self-leadership skill that is a very big deal. Humility and curiosity, the combination of those two things keep you relevant. And they're probably two of my most favorite qualities in other human beings. And I'm constantly saying, do I have those in check right now within myself? Am I curious enough? Am I humble enough? What am I doing to make sure that those two things are present in this situation, in this discussion, in this hire, in this guidance, in anything that I'm doing? Do I have my humility in check? Do I have my curiosity in check? And am I self-aware, right? In all of those places. Leaders develop skills daily, not in a day. So they develop skills daily, which means you're at the helm of leaders want other people to learn and grow underneath them. And yet, if you're not doing it, the most powerful leadership in general is example. There's nothing more powerful than example, right? Things are caught, not taught. So when you are open, when you are humble, when you are self-aware, when you are engaging, when you are curious, it gives other people permission by watching and observing to then emulate, right? You watch kids. I don't know if you've ever, I say often that leadership is a lot like parenting, and you see a child and you'll watch them do something and you're like, where did they learn that? But the truth is, you're like, you picked that up from this. You got that from this show. You saw that from this picture. You got that from me. You got that from your dad. Oh man, does that look like your brother, right? And the truth is, they might not have ever said, hey, here's a step-by-step, a play-by-play to do these things, but somebody watched them do those things. And that's what created it. And so leaders know that things are caught, not taught. And so they're aware that people are observing them all the time, and that is an honor and a privilege and an opportunity and a responsibility that they take very seriously to then pour into others, right? And to be that right example in general. Big lessons, character and integrity, I think, are huge in the leadership play. People buy into the leaders that they can buy into the vision, and the vision isn't about themselves, the vision is about the follower, right? That, like, when I have a vision about what we're going to do as a group, everybody has a role that it's going to impact them as well. And they see their role and what they need to do to be part of that vision, what we're trying to create and why we're trying to create it. I see a big miss with leaders in general that say, I want to do this, I want to do this, and you're going to help me, but really it's still about me. And I can tell you that's a hard vision for people to buy into. And it's not that they don't want to be helpful. It's not they don't want to see you win, but what a different thing to say. Hey, yes, this helps me win, but me winning means this for you as well. Here's your growth path. Here's what this does for all of us. Here's what it opens up in every way, right? Like, leaders can create a vision. And I can tell you that in vision, trust, which means it's a realistic vision, but it's an exciting one, and one that gives everybody a role and a place and something to be proud of and excited about and partaking in it. Trust, ultimately, it precedes influence, if you will. If they trust you, if they're emotional in general, they'll move with influence at that point. If there's not trust, if they don't have emotion with it, they won't move, which means, and I say this so often, and I have it written down in a million places for years and years, and now it's just etched in my little brain here. Leadership without relationship will always equal rebellion. Leadership without relationship will always equal rebellion. Think about all the times that you get pushback, that you get frustration, that you get obstinance, that you get cynicism, obstruction, anything that feels like it's hard. It's generally lack of relationship that's creating it, right? It's lack of relationship. And so I want you to think to yourself, man, if I was just in a different relationship in general, that would help me meet on the road and get where I needed to go. So there's a great book and podcast that's out that is, I believe it's like how to communicate with complicated people or talk to complicated people. And the author, it's so funny. He is on the Ed Milet podcast talking about the book. And one of my favorite things that he says, and you're like, you're a good leader. You know it instantly, because he said, people run up to me and say, I needed your book. I love your book. And his response is so classic with humility and curiosity and self-awareness. He says, you know what? I wrote this book for somebody that will need it for you too. Think about that statement for a minute. He knows how complicated we all are, including himself. He said, I probably wrote this book as a guide for people to work with me, because we're all complicated, right? Leadership is complicated because you're trying to work with complicated people. You yourself are complicated and people are complicated. That's the truth, right? Really easy and different people, they're still complicated. How do you motivate them? How do you get them excited? Where do you find the energy? People that are overly excited and not able to come down a notch, it's complicated. People that are high worry, high stress, people that have nonchalant, fly by the seat of their pants, like, it's all complicated. That's the truth. And so we have to work on ourselves, and leaders have that job. I've said it for a million years. You watch the best coaches in the country that are really leaders as well. Those coaches, it's not the players that say, I adapt to the coach. It's the coach that says, I know how to meet the player 80% of the way. And yes, they need to do 20% of the work, but I know how to get there and reach them and get them to buy in. And that's the best, right? That's the best ones. They know that their job is to cross the line. They're not too prideful. They don't stand on one side and say, my way or the highway, you're over here. This is what I'm doing. They don't dictate, Yes, there is a little bit of that, right? There always is, parenting, anything else, but you don't need it if you're a great leader. So if you find yourself consistently having to yell and scream to get your way, slam doors, dictate, fire, all bad employees, all everybody else's fault, here's a news flash. You're the problem. You're the problem. If people are quitting on you left and right, if you can't hold people long term, if people aren't excited, if people don't want to come in and say happy birthday to you as a leader, Merry Christmas, I'm grateful for you. If you never hear those things and you're thinking, gosh, I have ungrateful employees, gosh, they're not good, blah, 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 whatever it is, you're the problem. That's the truth. You're the problem. So you should know kind of what your scale is as a leader by how full your cup is on the daily, by what people say back to you as well. And I promise you, if they're filling your cup up left and right, it's because you're filling other people's as well. So that's a very big deal. Integrity is non-negotiable. In leadership especially, you can't lead people that you've deceived. You can't. It doesn't work. And it's very short term if you think you've gotten away with it. If people have been deceived by you, you cannot lead them. Integrity is what you do at all times, even when no one's watching, right? When you have a choice to maybe not be the person that they think that you are, when they can look behind the curtain and know whether or not, gosh, you're that person. And that aligns in our brains. And when a brain can align and say, you know what, those actions align with words, that behavior in this situation and that situation stayed consistent. Inconsistency breaks trust. That's a really big deal in leadership in general. A leader's credibility is their greatest currency by a mile. Like there's nothing more valuable, their credibility as their currency. If they're credible and that you really believe that, you'll work through issues because you trust still. There's integrity there. There's credibility. So big deal there. Influence. Probably leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. Like we've said that forever and ever. Like leadership is blank. Leadership is influence. Are you influential? Do people listen and act on your words? Do they listen and collaborate? Do they share their own voice with you because you influence them to be open and honest and contribute versus just dictate, right? Leadership is influential. That can be both good and bad if we're being honest, but the ideal and the ones that last a long time and flourish and create more followers are the ones that are the most influential in positive ways. Positive ways. You have to connect before you can lead. We just talked about that. Leadership without relationship equals rebellion. Every time I see someone have a negative narrative, making bad assumptions, being untrusting, not, being worried, all those things, I have them just spend a little time together, get to know each other a little better. Even in my coworker type situations, I'm like, get to know them better. Ask a few questions. Did you know this? Did you know this? I can't tell you, I had a realtor once that didn't love one of my processors' outcomes on a file, didn't love the interactions they had. And the truth was there was nothing really wrong, but they just rubbed each other wrong, if you will. And she's pretty assertive and not trusting naturally. And he's pretty non-emotional on the outside. And so he just kept plugging away and getting it done. And so at the end of the transaction, she called me and said, I never, ever, ever want that processor on my files again. But he's one of my favorite humans on the planet. And this is one of my favorite realtors to work with. She's really not a pain. I adore her and I love him. And I thought, what went wrong? So I asked him and nothing really. And the file closed. I did a closing. It was basically going into documents at the time. And I did something that was probably one of the boldest moves that I could have made. And frankly, a younger version of me wouldn't have done it. I sent him to closing. So here I am, a loan officer with one of my best referral sources requesting to never work with a processor again. Old me would have said, you don't have to work with that processor. And instead I said, okay, I hear you. We'll work on it. And then I went to the processor and I said, do me a favor, go to escrow, go to the signing table. She'll be there and win her over. And let's talk about how. And so I started to talk to him and I told him everything that she loves, what she loves to do in her free time, all these passions that she has, who these clients are to her, and sent him to closing. And I point blank told him she doesn't want to work with you anymore. I let him know, so he was aware. And I said, I need you to win her over. Now I called her and I said, hey, I have to tell you, Will really enjoyed working with these clients and he's on his way to closing. He's going to meet you there. And he's one of the, I don't know if you know this, and it's my fault for not giving you background. He's probably one of my favorite humans on the planet. Exceptional father, exceptional husband, incredible, dry but witty sense of humor, engaging in people's success, takes things to heart and really, really wants the team to win, wants the clients to win, wants the realtors to win, like incredible work ethic. It probably some of the best integrity of anybody I've ever known, like that good of a man. And she kind of took a deep breath and I said, so he's going to be at closing, but if you don't want to work with him after that, I completely understand. She called me after the closing and apologized. And she said, I enjoyed him so much. And it was such a lesson that leadership without relationship equals rebellion, meaning they didn't have a relationship with one another. He was leading her a little bit. She was leading him a little bit. It wasn't going well. But once they humanized it, got together, saw each other face to face, had a little belly to belly, man, did things change. So leaders lean in, not out, right? They don't go behind the scenes. You shouldn't ever have somebody surprised by being fired. You shouldn't have anybody dumbfounded by your behavior or your response to something. Like Clear is very kind in leadership. You leaning in, you knowing that relationship, that connection is so incredibly important is such a key. When leaders touch a heart before they ask for a hand is like a quote that is actually out of it's in the John Maxwell, I think 26 lessons of leadership, which is such a good book, by the way. Head to heart connection builds buy-in in general. We talk about that a lot, right? In sales, in leadership in general. And so they touch a heart before they ask for a hand, which means you don't have permission to dump and pile onto people when you haven't gotten them to open themselves up to love you, the vision, the company, what you're standing for, what they're working towards. If it's just a job, at some point they can find a job elsewhere. That's a problem, right? And so I think some leaders think like, I can't expose myself. It's vulnerable to open myself up. It's dangerous to be friends. I'm not saying you have to have dinner every single night and then know everything about the company or your business or anything else. But I can tell you, everyone I've ever worked for has understood even what I've made for a living, without fear, without judgment, without anything else, with knowing that I have a belief that if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I'd make room to help teach them. I always tell my team members, if you want to be a doctor, my job while you work for me is to give you every skill possible to be the most successful on the journey that you are going to embark on next, right? That's my job. It's not about me. It's about you. And that to me is real leadership. It's how you get buy-in. Leaders multiply when they develop other leaders, right? Like when your success without a successor is a failure. Our job is to make sure we're making room for other people to grow. And when I stepped out of actual originations, I was so proud of my team for stepping up and stepping in to that space. And to this day, I'm just so incredibly grateful that an opportunity for me was found that then made space. I didn't think nobody can do it as good as me. That was mine. It's not meant to be anybody else's. I thought, man, here it is, team, and you're ready. You're ready to take that space. And now look what you're doing with it. It's this beautiful, beautiful gift that I was able to pass on. But the truth is, they're so much better than I was at their age. And that to me is a testament of leadership in general, of relationship, of all of those dynamics. So really, really big deal. Encouragement is oxygen. Encouragement is oxygen. People don't work well in shame and blame. People don't work well when they feel small, belittled, they lack confidence in themselves naturally, most people, and they really do when other people feel like they lack confidence in them. So micromanagement, constant correction, constant critique, encouragement is oxygen. So remember, they can't breathe. Their souls can't breathe for the work without the recognition, right? It fuels retention. It fuels performance. It allows for people to want to be part of something. And we are really, really good at saying, get better at this, work on this. I see that was a mistake. And we're not so great with ourselves and with others of saying, bravo, I see you. I'm excited. You did that great. It could be the smallest thing. A drop of encouragement can literally clear the water that might have been a little dirty from critique. So very, very big deal in regards to encouragement in general. Empower others. One of the things leaders often do is think, I'm going to be the best, so I'm going to hoard that control, if you will. Give responsibility, authority, empowerment to other people and let them do it, right? Can you imagine trying to teach your child how to ride a bike, but never letting go of the seat as you're riding alongside them? Never letting go. The truth is, when you let go, the odds are your kid's going to fall down and skin their knees a time or two. They just are. And that's okay, because they'll get back up, realize that didn't hurt that bad, but then they'll know what caused it to begin with. Maybe they took their eye off the road. Maybe their handlebars shook a little bit. Maybe they took one hand off. Maybe they got scared and overthought it. Whatever went on, they'll correct because they were doing it, because they felt empowered and encouraged. And your job is to not hold back onto the seat. It's to say, let me help dust you off, but get you back on and send you on your way again. So leaders make space for that empowerment. Very, very big deal. Fail forward. That's a big one in leadership in general. Not only yourself, but allow for other people to fail forward. Own your own mistakes. I always look for a way to put the blame on myself first. And then I allow for people to acknowledge what they see they did as well, and or what the group did and what we could do to fix it together. It doesn't have to be, you were wrong, you were wrong, you were wrong, I was right. It's just, how do we get it right the next time? That was a good try, but we missed. What could we change? What could we move the dial on, and how could we move forward? Very, very big deal. Change is inevitable, but growth is optional. Let me say that again. Change is inevitable. Growth is optional. Leaders lean into change, not away from it. When leaders stay obstinate, this is how we do it, we're always going to do it this way. That's been parenting my whole life. There's these pieces of me that can hear my mom and dad being like, because that's what we said so. And we've opened ourselves up to do things a little different way, even though I knew something different. And I'm so grateful for that because it's just different path forward, still holding on to a little bit of the things that work and the foundations, and yet being open to the world is a little different. We need to make adjustments. There are changes that have to happen. I could teach a million things on leadership. It's probably 22,000 podcasts for me that I listen to, that I read, that I engage in, that I constantly work on myself, because I think that leadership and communication in general are two of the most powerful tools that you can give yourself to be successful in life and honestly make a difference in the world in general. And so hopefully just some of these things, I promise you there's more. I could probably talk for 2 more hours. Hopefully some of these things are something you can grab onto. Implement a couple of them. Look at yourself and say, what could I do a little differently here? How could I tackle this a little better? How can I have tough conversations sooner? How can I be more clear, more kind, more encouraging, more open, more vision driven, more relationship, right? Focused? How can I make sure that my integrity is in check? And that my humility and my curiosity are keys to the puzzle, and just continue to develop yourself, because if you're doing that, you give space, room, and example for other people to also want to develop and work forward with you. So be the best leader you can be, but get better every single day. It's mandatory. It's a whole heck of a lot of fun. And I promise you it makes a big difference in our industry in general, but I would say in life. And so keep leading. And if this was helpful, I hope you share it, and we'll see you on the next Wild.